Getting started with supplies, you're gonna need 1 yard of canvas, denim, or twill, 1/4 yard of vinyl or leather, and 1 yard of lining. 2 yards of 1-inch webbing, 2 1-inch buckles and strap adjusters, 1/4 yard of Velcro, and lastly, your pattern. And this pattern is available at properfitclothing.com, and it comes in small, medium, and large. Super easy to use, just download it, print it, and you're ready to go. And the links for all the supplies will be in the description, so definitely go check that out. After cutting, you're gonna wanna end up with 2 top main panels, 1 bottom, 2 front and back main panels, and lastly 1 bottom out of lining and 2 main lining panels. Getting started, grab your top and bottom main panels. One's gonna be out of the canvas and one's gonna be out of the vinyl. Place the right sides together and sew along that edge at 1/4 inch. And this pattern calls for a 1/4 inch seam allowance on all sizes of the bag. And once you have it sewn together, go ahead and fold it open and flip the inside seam towards the canvas side, and we're gonna add a top stitch. And go ahead and repeat this process for the other 2 top and bottom main panels. Grab one of your main panels and you're gonna wanna measure in 2 inches on both sides and 2 3/4 inches in from the top, and also mark the center. Grab your webbing and cut a 9-inch strip, and we're gonna place that across the bag. And it's gonna be right under your marking. Next, we're gonna cut 2 6-inch strips and feed them through your strap adjusters. And we're gonna place them on the inside of that 2-inch marking under the webbing. And lastly, cut a 7-inch strip, and we're gonna place it directly in the center under that webbing. And once you have everything into position, go ahead and pin that down, and we're gonna sew along both the top and bottom edge of that middle strap. And remember to scale up or down a couple inches on these webbing strips if you're using a large or small pattern. Next, cut 2 20-inch strips of webbing, and we're gonna place these at a 45-degree angle about a 1/2 inch from the bottom. If you're working with a large pattern, I recommend cutting them at about 30 inches. But for the small pattern, you can keep them the same as the medium. Once you have them pinned down, go ahead and sew as close as you can to the edge. Grab your front main panel, mark up a 1/2 inch from where those panels meet, and then also mark the center. And what we're gonna do is grab your buckle and feed it through the bottom of that buckle, and we're gonna place it directly on the center and roll over that top half so the webbing has no raw edges showing. And once you have it lined up with that 1/2 inch mark, you can go ahead and pin it on, and we're gonna sew along the outside edge in a box formation. And you can also use a smaller presser foot to really get close to the top portion of that buckle. And make sure to go back and forth a few times to tack it down and make sure it's secured on. Now we're gonna take the front and the back panel and place the right sides together, and we're gonna sew along the outside edges at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And again, I recommend pinning it into position so that way everything lines up. And at this point, you can trim the outside webbing that sticks out past the edges. Now you're gonna wanna mark the bottom center on both front and back panels, and grab your bottom main panel and mark the centers and the sides. And what we're gonna do is line up the centers and the sides with the side seams. And once you have them lined up, go ahead and pin all the way around that outside edge. And now that it's pinned, what you're gonna do is sew all the way around that outside edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And definitely take your time going around the corners. It can be a little bit tricky. And now that it's sewn on, go ahead and flip the right side of the bag out and check to make sure that everything is sewn together and there's no openings. Next up, grab your main lining panels, place the right sides together and sew along the outside edges at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to do the same thing as we did for the outer layer, so mark the centers of your bottom and your main lining panel. Match up those centers and pin all the way around the outside edge. And once you have it pinned into position, we're going to sew all the way around the outside edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but we're going to leave about a 2-inch opening, so don't connect the stitch. This is going to allow us to pull that bag through once we sew it onto the outer layer. And you can leave a bigger opening if you want, you just need enough of an opening so that way you can fit the bag through when you're pulling it back out. Now we're going to flip the right side of that lining out and match it with the side seams of the outer layer and make sure that the right sides are facing each other. And the biggest trick is to just make sure that both of the side seams are matched up, and once they are, you can go ahead and pin it on. And once you have it lined up and pinned on, you can go ahead and sew all the way around that top edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now that it's sewn on, we're going to pull the lining out and pull the rest of the bag through that opening in the bottom panel. With the bag pulled right side out, we're going to go ahead and grab that lining and finish off that inside opening. And the easiest way to do this is to fold that fabric over on itself so that there's no raw edges and sew along that edge. For the next step, we're going to finish off the strap adjuster, so grab the bottom straps and feed them through the bottom portion of that strap adjuster from back to front. Pull it through just a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and fold that edge over twice and add a stitch. And you're going to do the same thing for the other strap adjuster. Next, we're going to finish the top strap, so go ahead and grab the other portion of your buckle, feed it through from front to back, and fold it over twice and add a stitch. And I recommend going back and forth a few times to really secure those strap ends down. And to keep that lining into position, we're going to add an edge stitch all the way around that top edge. So just make sure that lining gets even and on the inside of the bag before you start stitching. Now we're going to be adding the Velcro, and we're going to be cutting this at 6 inches for the medium size. I recommend going 4 inches for the small and about 8 inches for the large. And we're going to place this on the inside of the bag about a 1/4 inch from the top, and we're going to do this for the front and the back. Once you're satisfied with your positioning, go ahead and pin it into position, and we're going to do it just like we did the webbing. We're going to sew on the top and the bottom edge.
Oh, it's just the sudden realization, you see, of the fact that I love you.
And do the same thing for the other side. And adding the Velcro is a nice way to seal off the bag so nothing falls out, and it's easy to roll over and clip together. And the last step is adding the chest strap. So what we're going to do is cut 2 8-inch pieces of webbing for the medium, and you can do the same for the small, and 12 inches for the large. Take one of the strips and make a loop around the strap and roll it over back onto itself. And we're going to stitch directly on that fold and not on the strap, so that way we can slide it up and down that strap. And go ahead and do the same thing for the other strap.
Reach the wizard.
And once you have both of the chest straps complete, you can take your buckle and feed it through both sides, front to back. And just like in the previous steps, we're going to roll those raw strap edges over twice and add a stitch. And this will complete your bag. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. We're going to keep the videos coming at you, so we'll see you next time.
Bye.